God's like, you can't stay here. You got to go back. And I'm like, no way in hell am I going back. Are you crazy? Like, there's no way I'm going back. Like, the earth is hard. It's challenging. It's difficult. There's a bunch of crazy bastards down there. And God's like, you have to go back. You have a mission to complete. You can't stay here. I've faced so much trauma and so much pain, so much betrayal. I'm not going back. My life has been a living hell. And on the third time, Brad, when God's like, you have to go back, I see my body from this bird's eye view. It looks like a murder scene. There's blood everywhere. And I summon up my negotiation skills with God. And I said, okay, fine. If I have to go back, you have to make sure that I don't have a traumatic brain injury. I'm not paralyzed, and I will go and do anything that you want me to do. But you have to save me. I'm so broken as a man because of the things I experienced at a young age from people that were very sick. I just don't know how to live, and I'm so broken, and you have to heal me, and I'll go and do whatever you want me to do. I made a deal with God, and he said, all right, man, cool. I'll do it. It's going to be difficult, but you can do it, and I got you.
Well, hello, RoyalKye Aurelius Funk. Welcome to the show. I'm truly honored by you joining me and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
Brad, I'm feeling wonderful. Thank you for having me on the show. It's really a pleasure to be able to share my experience with people, and I think it's very important with the landscape of the world we're living in today.
Oh, it certainly is, and I couldn't thank you enough for being here. We are going to get deep into the landscape and figure out things today that might help just a few folks. I certainly hope. But I got to tell you, you know what? Every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to be human. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today, I am joined by RoyalKye Aurelius Funk, a spiritual teacher, author, and near-death experience survivor whose life was radically transformed after a near-fatal accident. Now, RoyalKye's story includes a profound brush with death, a long and often difficult healing journey, and a deep re-examination of identity, faith, trauma, and purpose. But what makes his journey especially compelling is that it didn't end with just survival. It opened the door to years of inner work, spiritual awakening, and a calling to help others remember who they truly are. So he speaks openly about healing on every level, physical, emotional, spiritual, and the importance of reclaiming personal sovereignty, moving beyond fear and living from the heart rather than from old conditioning. So RoyalKye, thanks for being here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And wow, before we begin and get into the near-death experience part, Brad, I have to preface it with what led up to it, because a lot of people, they hit the meat and potatoes on it, but they don't really understand what led up to it. And so my background, I grew up in Wyoming. I was born in Utah, but I grew up in the wild west of Wyoming. So I grew up on literally the Wind River Indian Reservation. And so it was cowboys and Indians, and it was, you have to be tough. It's the Wild West. Don't feel your feelings. Don't feel your emotions. And at a young age, I was very, very spiritual. I remember meditating. I remember being connected to energy and speaking to angels at a young age. But because of the religion I was in, I had to shut it down because I believed that it was demonic and I was a bad person. And so shutting that down and realizing if I want to live in this world and be safe, I have to be tough. I have to be smart. I have to be successful, especially as a man in our society. And so I adopted this perspective that I have to be the best. I have to be, the smartest. I have to be the strongest. And so that created this paradigm of hyper competition and also not being able to understand my own inner landscape. So right out of high school, I got into federal firefighting. So I worked with the Forest Service for a couple of years, then I transitioned over to the Department of Interior, where I was on a helicopter attack crew. And so we would travel across the country for weeks and months at a time, working up to 21 days, 16 hours a day, hiking, hopping out of helicopters, fighting forest fires, just chainsawing down burning trees and just going nonstop. And so because of that, mixed with childhood trauma, I had PTSD and I didn't recognize it. And in our society, as a man, you don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about your emotions. And especially if you're a firefighter or a policeman or military, it's like we're tough as nails. We're boots on the ground operators, and it's mission focused. And so I didn't know what to do. I was drinking. I was drugging. I was wilding out. I was a Wild West bad boy for a long time. And I was really broken inside because I didn't understand how to navigate my inner landscape. And because of this hyper religious paradigm that I grew up in, I thought God hated me. I thought that I wasn't loved. And I just didn't want anything to do with spirituality or God. It was me against the world. And I have to be the best and I have to be tough. And so I got out of the fire world. I got into business and I got into sales. And I said, if I'm leaving something that I love for something that's 100% commission, I'm going to be the best and I'm going to do the best that I can. And so as I did, my paradigm shifted to I need money. All I need is money. Money's my God. And so I was in corporate finance at the time. I was married and I didn't want to be in the marriage. I knew it wasn't right. And money was my God. And so I had left after drinking quite a bit. I was numbing out a lot. I was drinking like a fifth a night to numb out. And I had gone to therapy and rehab and all these things, but I was still just so broken from this intense childhood trauma mixed with firefighting. So I left my house. I got into an argument with my ex-wife. Excuse me. And I'm cruising around on a motorcycle in Salt Lake City. I'm pretty toasted. And I went to go get a pizza. And at the time, I thought I was really hot stuff. I'm just like, meh, 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 like, let's go. And I remember I see this car full of girls. They looked at me and they're like, I see you. Nuh-uh, that's not good. Like they knew that I was drinking. And so I go get the pizza. I'm cruising down Hollywood Avenue. I'm just a couple miles away from my home, less than 5 minutes, cruising down about 30 miles an hour, no helmet laws in Utah. And so I look behind me just to make sure that the pizza's cool. But hey, bro, you all right? And then I turned back around and there was a roundabout. There was no lights. There was no reflectors. There was no street lights, nothing. Just this ominous warning that was just about to destroy my illusion of control of my life. And so I hit it head first without a helmet. So the motorcycle hit the roundabout and I slammed into it head first. Thank God my face broke my fall, right? And my jaw busted in half. It ripped from my skull on the left side entirely. My entire right side of my face was completely shattered and caved in. And I had massive internal bleeding in my brain, my kidney, my spleen, 3 shattered ribs, shattered scapula, broken arm, 2 fractures and 3 torn ligaments in my left leg. And I was bleeding out, hemorrhaging on my back and asphyxiating on my own blood. And I knew I was about to die. I knew it. And in this state, it was like this bloody, mangled mess of destruction. My jaw's hinged and it's broken. It's separated from my skull. My face is completely shattered. And I'm hemorrhaging into my own eye socket, from my eye socket into my mouth. And I'm gurgling in my own blood. I knew I was about to die and I prayed for everything that I had in my life. And I said, God, please, you have to be real. You have to be real. I don't want to die. Please save me. And at that moment, my soul, my spirit, my consciousness literally blasted out of my body and I appeared in heaven. And I knew I was in heaven. I knew that my soul was out of my body. I knew my body was just a lifeless form on the earth. And I was in the presence of God, Creator, Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it. People want to get into vernacular. It is an omnipresent, all-pervading, unconditional love that is beyond anything that you have ever experienced in your entire life, ever. I want the people to imagine their happiest moment, their most joyful moment, their most peaceful moment, their most epic, stoked moment of their life, and times it by 1,000,000, and maybe we get close. Maybe. It's the most amazing thing. And when I was there, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to stay here. I knew I was in the presence of God. I knew I was in heaven. It was just perfect white bliss. And this voice that's loud and booming, but loving. And clearly we weren't speaking, normally speaking. It was like telepathy because it's just this all knowing. And I'd never felt that kind of love. And it was so powerful. And God's like, you can't stay here. You got to go back. And I'm like, no way in hell am I going back. Are you crazy? Like, there's no way I'm going back. Like, the earth is hard, it's challenging, it's difficult. There's a bunch of crazy bastards down there. And I'm one of them. Like, I ain't going back. And God's like, you have to go back. You have a mission to complete. You can't stay here. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going back. I've faced so much trauma and so much pain, so much betrayal. I'm not going back. My life has been a living hell. And I've experienced more than a vast majority of people I know. Like, I'm not going back. And on the third time, Brad, when God's like, you have to go back, I see my body from this bird's eye view, and it looks like a murder scene. It looks like a murder scene. There's blood everywhere. I'm lifeless, barely breathing. And I summon up my negotiation skills with God. And I said, okay, fine. If I have to go back, you say I have to go back. You have to make sure if I'm going back that I don't have a traumatic brain injury. I'm not paralyzed. I'm not paraplegic. And I will go and do anything that you want me to do. I'll go and do anything you want me to do. But you have to save me. I'm so broken as a man. And because of the things I experienced at a young age from people that were very sick, I just don't know how to live. And I'm so broken, and you have to heal me. You have to teach me, and I'll go and do whatever you want me to do. And I made a deal with God, and he said, all right, man, cool. I'll do it. It's going to be difficult, but like, you can do it, and I got you. And so at that moment that I made the agreement with God, my body received my soul. It was like it was sucked back in, like, and man, going from heaven to this 3D density, this shattered body, this bloody, mangled mess of destruction is like the most difficult thing ever. And I'm sitting there, and this trauma doctor that lived across the street, the only person in the entire world that could have saved me, ran up to me because he lived across the street, and he heard it. And so he sees me, and he's like, oh my God, this dude's dead. He's dying. Like, I don't want to move him because of a spinal column injury, but if I don't turn him over, he's gone. So he cradles my spinal column, and he turns me over, opens up my airway, takes off his shirt, and is trying to stop the bleeding. There's blood everywhere. And he calls 911. And there was an ambulance that was dispatched 2 blocks away, parallel to where we were, showed up on the scene right away. Within the golden hour, triage and trauma is like the life-saving factor of if you're going to live or not. So they're working on me. And my dad, who is working in a town 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away, God had already told him that your son's going to be in a motorcycle accident tonight. You need to be there. So he had already been making his way hours away before the accident happened, and he showed up after the ambulance, GPS pinpoint location in all of Salt Lake City. And we'd been estranged for a little while, and he shows up late at night, nobody else. He gets out of his car, and one of the paramedics that was free runs up to him and like, sir, you don't want to see this. This is nasty. This guy's probably going to die. And my dad looks at the paramedic, and he says, that's my son, and he's going to live. God told me. And the paramedic's like, what the hell? How could you know that? How would you? He's like, God told me that he was going to be in an accident, and I came here to pray for him. He's going to survive. The paramedic's freaked out. He's like, all right, dude, whatever. Like, and so he goes back, they load me up, and they drive me to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, God stops the bleeding in my brain. So he stops the bleeding entirely. They don't have to do surgery. There's no brain swelling. There's not a traumatic brain injury. And Brad, this is a blunt force trauma on a motorcycle head first without a helmet. This is unheard of. This is a medical freaking miracle. No spinal column injury, nothing. They stent my kidney and my spleen, and they rebuild my face. 11.5 hours worth of surgery, reconstructing my jaw, reconstructing my eye socket, my face. And I wake up in the hospital like a day later, 2 days later, and the doctors are like, you're the luckiest freaking man alive. We've never seen anything like this. Somebody's looking out for you up there. And this is just, it's insane. You're so lucky. You're literally given another chance at life. And oh, by the way, your nose was a little crooked because I used to cage fight, and I was a state champion wrestler when I was younger. And they said we had some students in here. And so they just went in and fixed it and got some experience. So I got a nose job out of it. And I was in the hospital, and I realized it's all my fault. I just destroyed my life because I didn't know how to process my feelings or emotions. We live in a society where men aren't supposed to be, in touch with their feelings. And I had one of two decisions, Brad, to either continue down the path of destruction and pain and be mad at what happened to me when I was younger at the hands of people that were sick, at religion, at God, or I could accept responsibility and accountability and say, I'm going to use this as rocket fuel. I'm going to heal rapidly, and I'm going to share my journey so that I can help out other people so they don't have to suffer like I do. So I adopt this attitude of gratitude, and it literally expedited my healing. I was in the hospital for only 2 weeks, and I was working out 3 months later. My neurologist and every doctor is like, how are you doing this? This is insane. This is impossible. How is this? How can you do this? I'm like, I know how we can heal. I know who we are. I can teach this. And I learned it from some mentors and whatnot. But so this is the craziest part. 4 years later, I had never met the doctor that saved my life. He thought I died. He's like, there's no way this dude lived. And the June 29th of 2021, 4 years later, I'm in Salt Lake City before going to another fire federally. And God's like, you need to go to where the accident was. You're going to find the man that saved your life. And I'm like, okay. So I drive there. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, start knocking on doors. And so I knock on 3 houses. Nobody answered. I go to where the roundabout was. And there's this, not this eerie feeling, but it was like, you died here and you got brought back to life. And I look over across the street and there's this house and I got goosebumps and chills. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the house. So I walk up to the house. And at this time I had a white tunic on and white pants. I was getting ready for a buddy's wedding. And I just knock on the door, knock, knock, knock. And this kid that was maybe 16 years old opens up and he's like, yeah, can I help you? And I was like, have you guys lived here for a little while? And he's like, yeah. And I said, do you remember a motorcycle accident a couple of years ago? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'm that man. And he goes, oh my God, I got to get my dad. And so his dad comes out and he has this apron on and his hair slicked back. It's around dinner time. And he's like, how can I help you? And he was blunt and he was court. I was like, this is the dude that saved my butt. Like, this is the guy that saved me. And I look at him into his eyes and I said, do you remember a motorcycle accident? He says, yeah. And I said, I'm that man. And time completely froze. And he's like, no way you're that man. No, that man died. There's no way that you're this man. And I'm like, I am. You saved me. And God brought me back. And he told me to come here to say, thank you for saving my life. And we're just both sobbing and connected in this embrace. Because when you meet the man that saved your life, you can't really put a feeling to it. And so that's where the story unfolds and kind of begins.
I love it. Wow, that is deep and amazing. And yeah, when you meet the guy that saved your life, it's probably more than a handshake, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's so much in there that is amazing. I loved all the things you said. And there's so many lessons you learned, which we're going to talk about. But a couple of those you mentioned along the way is that you said you learned how to heal, and that's how you healed yourself. And so you can teach that to others, and you do. And so I definitely want to get into that. Part of this that's so amazing is your attitude of gratitude, because I know you have other sayings along the way, which is like, what you don't feel, you can't heal, right? And don't become bitter, get better. You've got all these great quotes, and when folks meet you and go to your website and get your book and so forth, they're going to get the full list of those things. And it's amazing that you were at this place in your life, kind of challenged. You said you were married, but, maybe not happily. You were drinking, so, trying to maybe drown some sorrows, I don't know. Yeah. But then it just rocked your world and took you down to ground zero. So, I'd love to hear more about, you come back and you heal and the lessons that you learned. What is it that you took internally? How did you pick yourself up by your bootstraps? And then when you turned that into value for yourself, you turned it into value for others also.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question. And people are like, what kept you moving forward? Because this is the kicker. I was saved and I was healing, but because I had alcohol in my system, the insurance company denied everything. I was left with a $500,000 medical bill and all medical coverage was completely denied, everything that they did. And so I was at this point and I said, oh my God, like you really destroyed your life. And I had to go through medical bankruptcy. I lost everything that I'd saved up or investments. They took everything. I started literally from ground zero. The marriage that I was in, I knew that I wasn't supposed to be in it, but I did it because of family and friends and religion. And this is what you're supposed to do. I grew up LDS Mormon, right? Get married young, have lots of kids, follow this program. And I just knew it wasn't right for me, but I didn't know how to hold healthy boundaries. And so that lost my career when I was in corporate finance. The firm that I was with said, hey, we're going to wait for you. They didn't. I speak about that in the book, and it goes deeper into that. And I had to start from nothing. And I was bitter and I was angry and I was mad. And it was this point where I wanted to end it. I really did. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore, God. Like, I can't handle this. This is too much. And I even started drinking again because it was so painful. I mean, you're going through $500,000 medical bankruptcy, lose everything, divorce, lose your career. You're literally from ground zero. You have nothing. God has stripped everything from you. And who are you going to be? And so this is graphic, but this is something that God wants me to share. So I was drinking and I was like, I'm just going to end my life. I'm going to shoot myself. And God's like, I'll make sure that you don't die. You will not die. Like, you will be on a feeding tube and you will survive and you'll be the rest of your life here as a vegetable. I saved you for a reason. Just surrender everything to me. You can't understand it all now, but I promise that I have a plan for you. And so I truly surrendered to God. And I was like, I don't understand the concept of God. I know there has to be something, but I was like, okay, like, I surrender everything to you. Just please help me. I'm suffering. I don't understand. And when I surrendered, when I relinquished control from my finite little human brain and my perspective, God was able to start bringing miracles into my life. And at that point, years later, as I was on the mainland and I was firefighting and finding some joy, but there was something that was missing. And I'm like, okay, like, there has to be something better. God saved me for a reason. I know that he has plans to prosper me and not to harm me. And I got really into spirituality and the new age and all these things. And then I got called to Hawaii, and it just completely rocked me and saved my soul. But the key thing was God saved my life. I was given a second chance. And there's this analogy of God and our guides or angels are trying to help us. They're trying to get our attention, right? We're distracted by work and money and family. But really, there's a mission for our soul. There's a blueprint and a plan for us. And so sometimes it might be a little feather. It's like, hey, look over here, And then it might be a little rock or a pebble on the glass, of your window. And then it's like a brick. And then it's a freaking semi truck. So the spirit is like, hey, hello, you're going down the wrong path. And so I'm so grateful for that, because it put me on a plateau of understanding and consciousness that I never, ever would have been before. So when people are going through tragedy and trauma and trials, it's not that you're being punished. It's literally because your soul is strong enough to go through it so that you can transmute it into the triumph with God and you can help other people. That's where the magic is. And so I just had a self-resolution that I'm not going to lose this life that I've been given. And I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to inspire other people, because that's what I'm here to do.
I love that. Yeah, there's so much in there. I love the word surrender that you used, because, earlier in your life, you were, like you said, very competitive, and you were the firefighter, and then money is the God, and you're going after various things. And, it's interesting because, your life is kind of so-so. And you have an NDE, which then makes your life super, rock bottom, like we said before. And, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you'll surrender and allow the miracles to come in. Because, before the accident, you weren't at a place where you were in rock bottom. You were not ready to know that surrender was the way to go. And so you really had to do it. And so it happened. So it, bam, surrendered. Now, when you hit rock bottom. And maybe a lot of folks watching this have similar experiences where they hit rock bottom and they surrendered and they came out of it. So let's talk a bit about what that actually is and means. How did you get to a point where, and I hear you say this sort of God tells you this, and God tells you that. When you finally surrender and you're open yourself, you turn your antennas on and you listen,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, I'm not listening to anybody because I'm in control here. Well, no, I'm not in control at all. I am going to be completely antennas up and listening to everything I can. How do you hear those messages? What do they feel like? How do you know to follow them?
Such a great question. I really love the antennas up because a lot of people, their antennas are down. We transmit and we receive signals all the time. And so it's really about, giving me the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the heart to feel the truth. I don't want some religious concept of God. I was like, I grew up with that. Like, I have to know who you are. And God is such a finite, infinitesimally small vernacular and word for what God really is. I just say it in that aspect so people can kind of have a frame of reference. But it's really like, I have no idea what's going to unfold. I have no idea where my life's going to go. I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. But if the creator of the universe, of my heart, my soul, my mind, has crafted this world for me, he knows me, there's a plan for me, and he holds the cosmos together and knows everything that's going on because it's this all-pervading, infinite, all-loving intelligence. I'm going to trust a little bit. I don't know how it's going to happen, but you know what? I've been doing things my way and it's been a shit show. It's not been fun at all. I made myself my God. I was the movie director, the actor, the key grip, the best boy. I was the editor, getting everything exactly how I wanted it. Oh, it has to be perfect in this way. And God's like, dude, I mean, you can do that, but it's going to give you just a portion of what I have for you. And so we put this limiting perspective on God and what he wants to do in our lives because we don't trust. And so it's really coming to this place of allowing your heart and your mind to be open, because a closed fist, a closed heart, and a closed mind does not receive. So people are like, hey, I need help. I need help. I need help. It's like, all right, well, drop it and open up your heart so you can actually receive the wisdom and the guidance and the information. And for me, sometimes it comes in through an intuitive knowing. Sometimes it will come in through a message on a song, through an individual, through an animal, through symbolism. And so it'll be something that's so resonant with you that'll hit you like that. And you're like, oh, there's something here. There's a tether. I need to go down this node. I need to understand this. And then it'll be a little message. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And as you open up to your intuition and what's being given you on these little breadcrumbs on the journey, you're like, oh, okay, that will lead you here. Then you'll meet this person and that'll unfold. And you could have never, ever planned it by yourself. Just like how I got to Hawaii. Like, I never planned on living in Hawaii. I didn't want to go to Hawaii. I talk about it in my book. And I'm like, I'm not crossing the ocean because that's one of my biggest fears. If the plane goes down, I'm in the middle of the ocean. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, no, like I can hop out of helicopters into forest fires, but I'm not going across the ocean. That's scary. So I literally had to cross one of my biggest fears to get to Hawaii. And when I landed on Hawaii, I knew that I was home. I was like, it's like, welcome home. And I was sobbing and crying like a baby. And it literally transformed my life. But I had to be brave to go into the work, to go into the deep, dark places of my psyche and my soul and shine the spirit of consciousness to say, hey, what's going on over here? And not uncovering it so I can bring up a firing squad, but bringing it into the light to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, what part of me have I pushed away, or what is this trauma? And like sitting with it, to feel it, to heal it, because what you don't feel takes the wheel and it's concealed. So it's driving your life in these behaviors and these patterns and these relationships, and you'll keep cycling through them until you synthesize and alchemize the lesson. And a lot of times it's very difficult to do by yourself, and you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need God and some understandings and a framework to be able to move to the next step. Because I suffered for years. I really did. And I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I went to conferences and workshops and retreats and medicine ceremonies with DMT and LSD, MDMA, ayahuasca, psilocybin, changa. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I finally understand it now. And that's why I want to help people, because they don't have to suffer, but it's a choice.
So did you experiment with all those different chemicals to try and retrieve that experience you had with the NDE?
No, actually, I was doing it to like get rid of this deep sorrow in my soul. So in my book, I talk about it. Like, I was raped at a young age by a baseball coach at gunpoint. And he's like, you tell anybody, I'll kill you. That's really graphic. That's what happened to me. I shut down. My psyche was outside of my body. I didn't know it until years and years and years later. And there was this gaping hole inside of my soul, and I didn't want to live. And after people experience intense trauma, they're in a fight or flight response, and their conscious mind is there, but they're really kind of shut off, and their psyche and their soul separates so that they can just live in their body or outside of their body, right? And so I went on all those journeys to complete, like, to heal from that and to understand, like, hey, how do I move through this? I have PTSD from firefighting, a lot of childhood trauma. I was suicidal at 8 years old because I was like, this world's crazy. Like, they don't get it. Like, I'm super spiritual and people like seem like they're just like robots. And so I didn't understand my place for a long time, but a lot of people that are spiritual and guides and teachers or seers or revelators or prophets or whatever, they've gone through crazy experiences that have forced an expansion of their soul so that they can use that as wisdom for other people, because everybody that's enlightened or sharing the wisdom is adding to the whole of the collective conscious.
Right. And I think there are many folks, just like you said it so well, that they had a traumatic life and they've overcome it and they've worked hard and it's been really difficult, but they had that experience and they have the knowing. And so with that, they can see that in others, maybe younger or not even younger, but those that haven't rounded the corner and actually figured it out and maybe surrendered and used trust in the way that you used it. And so you can get to those folks, share your experience and maybe guide them, maybe a little bit of a shortcut on the path to recovery in their world. So that is amazing. And we should talk about that a bit more also. And what I really liked in there, what I heard is the fact that, your life has been difficult all along and you thought you were in control and you realized you're not. And so you did surrender and you have trust. And I would suspect that you would probably share the fact that the rest of your life is going to be something that could be a mixture of challenges and triumphs and joy and maybe sorrow. But if you surrender to it and you listen to the signs with your antenna up, that you're going along a purposeful path. This is a path that's very purposeful, but for the RoyalKye physical manifestation that is here today, don't fight it anymore. It could be great. Enjoy it. It could be terrible and awful. Learn from it. Move on and realize it's a limited time, right? And so get out there and experience it and don't, hopefully you might feel pain from something, but not long-term sorrow or suffering associated with it, but kind of pick yourself up, learn from it, dust yourself off and move. And then there's got to be some sort of inspirational sort of comment you can make there. Like when someone is really down and it's just really one of those troubling times and they do have to get themselves up and keep going. It's like, what is that inspirational insight you would share with them to get up, dust it off and keep going?
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question. Again, amazing questions, by the way, Brad. Thank you for listening and being able to follow the thread so eloquently. So I would say when you're in that place you feel like you're surrounded by darkness. You feel that there's heaviness that you can't shake. You feel that it has your number around every corner and every step and you can't dodge it. I would say that it's time to be brave and you have to make a firm and resolute decision in saying, this is my life. I'm not going to allow this to control me. And I know that there's something better for me. I'm not going to allow this to dictate how I'm showing up. I'm not a victim. You have to either decide, am I going to be a victim or a victor? You have to say, all right, all these things happen to me, but am I going to be a victim to it and victimize myself? Or I'm going to say, no, I'm created in God's image. I'm here for a reason and a purpose. I know that God has placed something in my heart. I feel it. There's these talents and skills and abilities that I have. This is not the end. There is something that God is having me do, and it's a part of a plan. And when you understand, you're like, wow, like I knew that I had to go through that near-death experience. It was a contract. Like, I don't think there was any way out of it. No matter what, something like that would have happened so I could come back and share wisdom and knowledge from the depths of hell and from the peaks of paradise in heaven. So when you're in that place, you have to really, number one is don't judge yourself. If you are in judgment or criticism or guilt or shame, it's keeping you farther away from the alignment of your soul. It's creating more polarity. So number one, and this is what I help my clients out with, is you have to accept where you're at and what's going on. You're spending all of this energy saying, well, I'm not here, this didn't happen, or maybe you're just mulling it over again and again and again. It's like, okay, this is currently where I'm at. This is the reality. I'm going to sit with it for a little bit. This is what's going on. And I'm going to make a firm decision to move forward. I'm not going to stay here. And the vision is extremely important. You have to have a vector, a North Star, because fear comes in when people do not have a vision, because they don't have clear sight. They don't have clarity. So they're scared. Oh my gosh, where am I going? What's going to happen? You have to have a firm and a resolute vision. And mine was, I'm going to heal rapidly. I'm going to use this experience to share with others, and I'm going to inspire other people. I didn't go through hell and back to end, like to give up now. Like there's no way. Like I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. I'm not throwing in the towel now. And so there's somebody that's listened to this that's maybe they're tired, maybe they're weary, maybe they've even had a level of material success and they have a lot of money, but they're still feeling numb. It's because you're disconnected from your heart, your soul, and your purpose. And you will never find any satisfaction outside of anything beyond that's, beyond temporary, unless you're connected to your heart, your mission, and God. There's no amount of materialism that can fill that hole. If I had the option today, somebody said, hey, I'll give you $1 trillion. I'll give you yachts and helicopters and cars and money and girls and whatever, or you could go to heaven. I'd be like, bro, come on. That's a stupid question, because there's no amount of materialism that will equate to the love of God and the epicness of our souls that we have once we awaken to it.
That's actually a really good thing. By the way, all that was amazing. Thank you. I'm sure people are like feverishly taking notes on that whole thing. But I liked what you said about that, that comparison. It's like, I'll give you all these worldly gifts or heaven. And it's like, guess what? Heaven is amazing and nothing you can do here is going to equal heaven. So sorry. But that means while I'm here, I don't really have to go after worldly gifts. I got a limited time here. I'm going to go after experiences, those that I'm supposed to have and learn from. And when I'm done, I'm going to go to heaven. It's going to be great, much better than anything here. So I got it. So while I'm here, I'm literally just going to be going day to day, carving away experiences that I'm supposed to have. And so if I have a tough one, I go, oh, thank you for that. And then I get up and then I got to go. I know they're not all going to be tough, and so there's a bit of a compromise, but it isn't about acquiring all these worldly gifts and then having all those and go, yeah, I got them. No, not at all. Yeah. So that's so cool how the way you put that. So now let's circle back to today. You've done this, you've learned this, you've felt this, you've learned and benefited from it yourself, and you've helped so many others. So what's the curriculum look like? Why are you in Hawaii? Who are you helping, and how are you helping them?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I never thought that I would be in a position that I am now. Like, I'm just like, wow, like I'm speaking, I'm on podcasts and TV and radio and books and working with clients and consulting. And it's really getting people into alignment with who they already are. It's just helping them remember, since I've been beyond and I've gone through these experiences, I've been able to synthesize and transmute a lot of things. So I have keys and wisdom that are practical steps that can help people. So we can bridge the gap and compress time. So we take an audit. Hey, where are you at? What are you experiencing? And this is where we're going. And we bridge the gap and compress time so that they don't have to continually suffer or feel lost or confused, or maybe they're just like, man, like I know something's missing, because I've spent literally decades on so many conferences, workshops, programs, coaching, rehab, therapy, CBT, DBT, Metaskin journeys, like all these things. And I'm like, wow, okay, I understand it now. I understand the integral parts of how our psyche and our psychology and our physiology is connected together. So the book is a great starting point. It really is. That's the wisdom of my life that I've shared very authentically, very vulnerably. And when I was writing it and God was channeling me, I was like, I don't want to put this in here. And God's like, you have to. I'm like, this is extremely vulnerable. It's like my entire life and everything's just like raw. And he's like, exactly. Because when you're authentic, it leads to vulnerability, which opens up the gateway to transformation for other people. And so I'm like, okay, that's what it's about. It's about authenticity and being real. So it goes over my life in It's mystical, it's magical, it's a supernatural experience. It's a nonfiction self-mastery and spirituality book, and there's coursework with it. So each and every chapter that you're reading, there's reflective questions, there's journaling prompts, there's exercises to really get you out of your own way and to question your paradigm and your perspective that you have on yourself so that you can get deconditioned from cultural engineering and realize, wow, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience with the society and the 3D matrix that we live in, the materialistic matrix mesh, right? Here, buy more, consume more, you'll be happy. You have to step back from that and realize, like, oh, this is just a machine. It literally is. And when you stop acquiring items and thinking you're living and you change it to acquiring experiences and meaning and knowledge, that's really where it comes from. And so we do conferences and retreats and workshops. I'm in Salt Lake City currently right now because I have an event called Miracle Maker Be the Light that's coming up on the 31st. We're bringing in another amazing, fantastic soul, Kira Brinton. She's an author and a publisher and a TV show host. She's a book channeler, and she's going to be there sharing her story. And so really giving people practical tools on, hey, this is how you can get into alignment. This is how you can recalibrate your identity. This is how you can stabilize your nervous system. Because I literally spent decades trying to figure this stuff out and a ton of money. I'm like, I get it now. I understand it. And there was a time, Brad, when I was so angry at God, even after going through these mystical experiences, these supernatural experiences, these paranormal experiences. And I wrote a letter to God. I was like, dude, you have to answer these questions or I don't want anything to do with you. Like, why have I experienced all this pain? Why has it been so difficult? And I wrote these in a letter. I sealed it up on my desk. I went to the gym. 2 weeks later, this little old lady that was like 65 or 70, maybe 5 foot tall, piercing green eyes, comes up to me and starts talking to me like she knew me. And she's like, hey, RoyalKye. I'm like, what? And she's like, everything that you've been through is so that when you're sharing your story and your testimony, people will believe you and you can help them out of the depths of hell. God's already given you everything. Now it's your time to share it. And she answered every single one of my questions. And I was like, that's crazy. And when she was speaking, the resonance of where we were, the auditory, like hearing it was different. Like it was like a bell was around us or something. It was trippy. She was either an angel or was being transfigured. Super cool. So then I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm listening, but I wrestled with God for a long time. I'm like, I don't want to just read you from some book. I don't want to hear about it from some religion. Like I have to know that you're real. And I wrestled with God for a long time. And I was in Montana in 2023 on a fire, and I was able to go to church when I had a day off. And this pastor comes up to me and he's like, man, you've been like a wild bronco for a long time. And God's been trying to like break you, like to saddle you because he wants to use you, but he can't because you don't want help. And I was like, no, okay, God, I get it. So yeah, a lot of times it's people are suffering and they don't need to be. They're in competition, they're in comparison. And if you're in competition with anybody else but yourself, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And if you're in criticism, it's literally the thief of joy. Because of what? Somebody has more money, somebody has less money. Somebody looks better, somebody doesn't look as good. Like there's a contrast. It doesn't matter. Be happy with who you are. Start appreciating your body. Start appreciating your mind. Start appreciating the smallest of the littlest things. My jaw was wired shut, Brad, for 8.5 weeks. I lost 45 pounds. I was literally eating every meal from a straw. And when I was talking to people like this because my jaw was wired shut. And I was like, oh my God, have I ever been grateful for my jaw? Like, oh, thank you so much. Until something's missing, you're never grateful for it. So gratitude is the attitude that opens up the key to the universe.
I couldn't love it anymore. Tons of great advice in there. Way to go. And I love how you're doing physical events in addition to these virtual events. Now, virtual events are great. The volume is there, the reach around the world. But boy, when you get in a room with some people and you have the time on stage in front of them, but even off stage, having conversations, deep, personal experiences, things that really change people's lives. That's amazing. Now, I got to tell you, I got this next section that I have, which is called Heart's First Whisper. So I have some questions that I have actually pre-packaged for you. And, you use your heart to answer them. You don't use your mind or your thoughts. What do you think about that?
All right, let's go for it.
Let's go. All right, see what we do here. And these are meant to be kind of quick, just real thoughtful, sort of deep ideas here. So, number one, when everything was stripped away, identity, strength, certainty, what part of you remained untouched?
My eternal soul and consciousness that's always been and forever will be.
Aha. And how long did it take before you could answer that question that way?
After losing everything and being in nothing. And a couple of years later, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. After all those things you mentioned earlier, of all the places you went and the things you researched and the folks you worked with, boom, all of a sudden the reality kicks. That's beautiful. Number two is, what did your near-death experience not heal, but instead require you to consciously heal afterward?
That's a great question, because a lot of people that have near-death experiences, it takes some time to reestablish your identity and heal your nervous system, because it's so traumatic. I mean, you literally die and then come back. And so I would say deeper aspects of early childhood that had been just hidden away in my subconscious psyche for a long time.
Because there was so much there also, you might have wanted to sort of push back and not remember and not re-experience.
We think that if we go into the darkness that we won't make it out. But once we understand that we are the light in the darkness, we're not the darkness, even though we're surrounded by it, and the brilliance of your soul lights up, you're like, oh, I can do this. Like, I'm okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And you'll find out that you're far more resilient than you could ever imagine.
So you could say maybe, I am the light. And if I go into the darkness, I will shine light on it. I must be there having that experience for a reason. There are no mistakes, maybe, right?
Yep.
And I'm having this experience for good. I'm going to turn my light up as high as it'll go, experience it, and then maybe move on.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Number three, you said that many people are spiritually offline. What do you believe is the single biggest reason for that?
I believe that it is a deliberate attack on the soul and the spirit of humanity. So numbingness, easy access to simple pleasures, I mean, there's just a plethora of things. I mean, if you look at our food and how synthetic it is as compared to like what our ancestors ate, the news media, social media, all these things, we're just being bombarded by signals that are false signals to keep people distracted. And I don't think it's just one simple reason, other than the fact that as you go down these tethers and these nodes, that we are in spiritual warfare, that we are spirits, that we are sons and daughters of God, and that we are in spiritual warfare. So they want people to stay distracted, discouraged, depressed, so that they don't realize who they are and the power that we have within ourselves.
And would you say that at this point, as a lot of people talk about that very same topic, that we're headed for future experiences that are the same, better, or worse?
I believe it depends on like the collective resonance of the consciousness, right? Like we have free will and we have agency, but yet at the same time, like God has a plan. And so let's take it simplistically. In my case, like, oh my gosh, there was this death and destruction. I lost everything. You could see that and focus on that. If I was only in that timeline, that snapshot of that, my life's terrible. But now we expand to a more, a 30,000 foot view of it. Like, oh my gosh, look, that event caused all of this. And now I'm sharing my story and wisdom and healing people. Like I'm letting them heal themselves with God inside, right? So all these things, I believe the things that we're going through now is a similar aspect of the collective conscious waking up. We're sick of being numbed. We're sick of having this garbage food and these connections that aren't real. Like people know something's off and they can feel it. And they're like, something's wrong. And like, I'm missing something, right? And so people are waking up to that. So it's literally the awakening of the collective conscious to a next stage of evolution. But before that, there has to be a contraction before there's a major expansion, just like in physical fitness, right? If you're building muscle and growing, you have to rip some muscle fibers. So right now, the collective conscious is going through a lot of muscle fibers that are ripping so that we can get into a higher consciousness.
Oh, well, there comes the term no pain, no gain, right? And you know what's interesting is if you look at your life and a lot of those that have similar, there was a lot of pain, which allowed you to surrender and trust and open up and then be open to the gain that you're receiving now, for sure. And it feels like if a great percentage of the population were to go through the same thing and they were to feel that tremendous pain and then open up, essentially, they also would be open to much, much better existence and stop saying yes to the powers that be that are oppressing them and saying no instead. And in fact, not even saying no, but saying, I got better ideas and these are those ideas.
Yeah, I think people are really afraid to go into the unknown, and it takes a very brave soul to open up and to question their reality. When I went on this journey, I had to question my personal paradigm, my world paradigm, my religious paradigm, everything. And you have to be okay with being wrong. And you have to be okay with understanding that a lot of the stuff that we've learned is garbage. And it's literally conditioning and engineering to conform people to a materialistic matrix mesh that is soul crushing. And it's all about the bottom line.
Well, thank you for being a demonstration clearly of a person brave enough to be able to say, I was wrong. Like, how can you find the truth unless you're open to the fact that you might be pointed in the wrong direction?
Yeah.
And so that's beautiful. And thanks for being a shining light there. This brings us to number 4, which is, how did changing your name change the way you carried yourself in the world, RoyalKye?
I love this question. So I speak about this in the book. When I was in Hawaii, I think it was the second or the third year, I decided to do this fast, and it was important to me. I'm like, I'd started working on the book. I was maybe a couple chapters in, and as I'm writing, I'm channeling, but I'm going through those experiences again and again and again, editing it and editing it with my editor. And I'm like, I just need a fast. I've heard that fasting is really important. I've done smaller fasts of maybe a day or a small water fast, but I decided to commit to 30 days with only coconut water, fresh coconut water. So I'd wake up in the morning, hack up some coconuts and drink the freshest coconut water in the world and get the mana from it. And at that time, I was also doing a heavy metal detox. I was doing a parasite detox, and I was on a protocol for hydrocolonics. So I was cleaning out my entire system. I mean, major, major work. One of the things that happens is that this energetic lower frequencies, like of parasitic or vampiric or trauma, the heavy metals and the parasites feed off of each other. And a lot of people have parasites and they've never even done a cleanse or a detox or deworming, right? And so there are certain emotions and feelings that are associated with each thing that you've gone through. And as you're moving through a cleanse, there's going to be feelings and emotions and stuff that come up that you're like, whoa, this is intense. And so every time I would progress to a new level of surrender and getting rid of these energies or parasites, something would happen that would try to bring me back down to that lower resonance. And it was on the 30th day. I had just finished my hydrocolonic session. No, before my hydrocolonic session, I woke up and I'm just like, I'm dying. Oh my God, I'm dying. And then I decided, I'm like, I'm not dying. I'm going to live. I'm full of light and love, and whatever's attached to me cannot be here. And an hour later, I passed this massive parasite that was probably 3 feet long, that was white, and it was like this thick, nasty. And then I went to my hydrocolonic session, got that cleared. And then I was with a friend and I was using her car at the time, and it completely started on fire in the parking lot. And I'm like, I had to run over from the parking lot because I was walking by the banyan trees, and all my stuff was in there, my backpack, my laptop, and I had to go into the car that was burning on fire to get the stuff. And then after that, I had this meditation after all this stuff happened, and I was just meditating, and I left my body again. I had this out-of-body experience, and I went to this desert landscape that was akin to like Sedona, and there was all these tribal elders that were speaking about the future of humanity. They were talking about 0-point energy, quantum warp drives, 5D med beds, and I'm just observing all this. My body is in meditation in Hawaii, but I'm in another physical body that's mine in another location, and people can see me after this 30 days of not having any solids, complete coconut fast, and this this figure that looks like, the all father or this wise old man, right? And like this archetypical symbol comes up to me and he says, "What's your name?" And I look at him without missing a beat. And I'd never uttered these words in my entire life. And I'm like, "RoyalKye Aurelius Funk." And he's like, "Yes, it is. You're here to do big things." And his eyes like turn golden. And it's like I got hit by a lightning bolt. And I got hit so hard by this spiritual energy, like this prana. I literally launched out of my bed and I landed on my feet. And I was like, "What the hell was that?" And Spirit's like, "This is your name now." I'm like, "What? I'm just supposed to go and tell people this is my name?" Because my birth name is Kai Funk. And Kai means keeper of the key or bringer of light. And Funke is German for spark. And God's like, "You have to, this is your name now. This is what you're to be addressed as." And I was like, "Okay, just to make sure that I'm not tripping out, like you send me a sign to confirm this." And a buddy that was a pastor from California sent me this video of another pastor speaking and saying, "Hey, when God is using people and they've lost everything and he's rebuilding them, they will get their names renamed." And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I went through the name change process, and on the forms, it's like, "What compels you to change your name?" And I even wrote on it, I'm like, "Well, God came to me in a vision and said I had to." So the secretary governor's like, all right, they read this, they go through it. And I can imagine them seeing like, all right, God told them to do it. All right, approved. Ting.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, everybody growing up has the name. They sort of have to get used to it. Some people, well, they get married, they might change the last name. Others might just change the whole thing as a stage name or whatever. But few people, I think, have God tell them what their new name is. So RoyalKye Aurelius Funk is quite an amazing name. The first time I saw that, I thought, am I really pronouncing this correctly? And so, but it is, it's something that you kind of don't forget. It's unique for sure. So I love that. So, hey, number 5 is, if fear is one of the primary control mechanisms in this world, what dissolves it most effectively?
That's a great question, man. I think you've had the best questions that I've been on in a podcast. I really appreciate the probing of the consciousness. So fear is one of the primary control mechanisms, 100%. And what dissolves it most effectively is love, is really love. And it's love for yourself. It's love and understanding and knowing that you are loved by God, that you are literally a soul that is full of love. When people are in fear, they are easily controlled and manipulated. So I want to just express this, and something that I learned and when I work with my clients on. There's 4 very distinct things that happen when we are in a fight or flight response. You have to understand the mechanisms that are controlling this reality. So our autonomic nervous system is controlled by the emotional seat of our body, by our senses. And so if I can get somebody emotional, I can hijack their awareness and their psyche. So if I get somebody fearful, I can literally hijack them and put them into a fight or flight response. That's how people emotionally hook people and feed them garbage. And so number 1, if you are in fear, you cannot have your highest critical cognitive thinking ability. It's just shut offline. You're not thinking critically. You're thinking, am I going to live or am I going to die? Right. Number 2, it drops your immune system and takes all that energy, like 30%. Number 3, you cannot learn any new information. So you can't learn anything because you're like, am I going to live or am I going to die? I'm not worried about understanding something or different concepts that will change my life. And then number 4, it causes a massive amount of dis-ease in the body. So if you look at the landscape of the general populace of our world, a lot of people are in a mild, what we call a sympathetic response. They're in a fight or flight or freeze or fawn response. And so they're offline and they're being manipulated and controlled. And so my job as a guide is to help people understand that, get out of that state so that they can be empowered, reclaim their sovereignty and identity, recalibrate that, and be able to realign the nervous system. And that's what I speak on, because that's literally what is controlling the world. And it's keeping people in this division, this discord, because when we come together as individuals, it's insanely powerful. And at this event, I'm going to be speaking in spiritual terms and mathematical terms where we can quantify it and qualify it, that when people are coming together, it's changing the entire field, and we're offsetting, millions of people that are in fear and guilt and shame when we're in love and unity.
Yes, I love that. When people are caught in a state of fear, they just get locked down. They stop thinking, like you said, and they don't have the opportunity of being, when they're open, of being taking the path that's most advantageous to them. So that's huge. And I know when you work with the folks that you do work with, that's something that you help them with. And that, by the way, takes us to our sixth and final question, kind of about the folks that you work with here. When your life is complete and your mission fulfilled, what do you hope people remember, not about your story, but about their own?
That they'd never have been alone, that we are created in God's image, that we are little G's. And I speak about it in my book. We're little G's. We're not alpha and omega, but we get to co-create reality with God. And that we're more valuable and loved than we could ever understand. If there's one thing that I could leave this world with, is that you're loved, God loves you, and really stepping into that and owning it, because that's where the magic happens. Because it doesn't matter the stuff that we have, right? It's like people just want more and this and that, and they're not happy. I lived in Mexico for a number of years with my former wife. She was a Mexican national, learned Spanish. That's part of my Cuban and Spanish ancestry. And when I came back to America, Brad, I realized, like, wow, people have so much and they're just not happy and they're not grateful, and they have Beamers and Mercedes and Audis and these big cars, but nobody's happy. And when I was in Mexico, the people were so happy. They were so grateful. The community was wonderful. So when I came back, I'm like, ugh, America's sick, man. Like, these people are really disconnected. So leaving people to let them know that materialism is not happiness, that love is what we truly are. And as we open ourselves up and be vulnerable and brave, that's where the transformation happens.
Beautiful. Man, as we wrap up the podcast, those are words of wisdom. Boy, they all are words of wisdom. You know, it's funny. There's a lot of folks that have just filled pages worth of information useful to them. And I also love the fact that there's a couple bumper stickers out there too. You know, those little phrases you have that we need to remember along the way. I hope when you folks read your book, they highlight those in yellow as well. You know, RoyalKye, your story isn't just about surviving something catastrophic. It's about remembering, who you are and helping others to do the same. So I love it. You know, you've spoken openly about trauma and darkness and healing and faith, warfare and love. But what keeps coming through is, the notion of no matter what someone has been through, their story isn't over. Their pain isn't wasted and their spark isn't gone. It's just waiting, for that next experience that's coming. So I got to thank you so much for being here today. And by the way, I want to make sure folks can find you, and so they can go to your website, see your content, get your book, and some of your physical appearances as well. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. So you can go to my website, miraclemanjourney.com. We have a digital bundle for the people that aren't in America. There's a lot of people around the world that are getting the digital bundle. If you're in America and you would like a signed copy, you can click on the link and that goes there. And also for people that are feeling called to really get help and expedited help, I do have an 8-week coaching container on identity recalibration and nervous system regulation. It's fantastic. It's amazing. You don't have to spend decades going to a therapist. I'm going to be teaching you things that I teach therapists, which is really amazing. I'm like, wow, God, this is cool. So miraclemanjourney.com. TikTok is RoyalKye Aurelius Funk. And we're going to be having a lot more events that are coming up around the globe and the United States. And there's just one thing that I want to leave off with. No matter where you are, no matter what you've gone through, like, you're loved. And it really is about the Christ consciousness. It really is about that pure energy that you're connected with. And if you really open up and you ask, things are going to start unfolding and you'll be like, whoa, RoyalKye was right. Like, whoa, oh my gosh, stuff is happening. And so don't wait. If you feel the call, reach out to me. I have, application forms to be able to help people. And I've helped people from successful business owners to divorcees to whatever it is. Like, I've experienced a lot, and these tools are universal so that you'll have them for the rest of your life. And thanks for having me on, Brad. Really, really grateful to be on and share the wisdom.
Well, thanks for sharing it. And I got to tell you, all the links you talked about are right in the description. So just go below, click more on the notes on the description, and you're going to see the links in there. Click them and go right there. And you know what I like to do too is if you go to bradpetersonshow.com, my website, and put your contact info in, let me know you want one of RoyalKye's books, I'll send it to you. I love doing that. You know, a handful of those first few that come in, I just go into Amazon, click, and I can send you guys a book. Because I love it when the guest is on and they share a book. And some folks, they don't mind buying it themselves. Others, maybe they weren't, maybe they couldn't. Well, I'll send you a couple myself. So I'm happy to do that. So I got to tell you, RoyalKye, thank you for sharing today. It was your journey, your wisdom, and your heart. It's been spectacular. Fantastic time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One miracle away.
Exactly. Well, to our viewers, if RoyalKye's story moved you, be sure to like and subscribe and share and let us know in the comments. I get in there and I answer every one of the comments. I love the dialogue. And if this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who might need a little light today. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go beyond, way beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.